They're going up. We are technically way above the state. We're at 5.1% of cases. The county's at 1.2, so we're way more affected than the rest of the county, and the state is at 1.9. I'd like to recommend that this board make a proposal to the selectmen to have masks worn in the town hall and all town buildings from now on until we find out from the state if it needs to change. Can I get a motion on that?
I'd like to question that, because if somebody is already vaccinated, are you going to make them wear the mask also?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because if you read this, we have had 14 of 16 of the cases were positively vaccinated or fully vaccinated. So you can still get it. This is bad. It's coming back just to our area for some reason. We're only at fully vaccinated at 60% for the town, 65 for one, and we're just not getting, everybody's getting vaccinated, so it's just affecting the town, and I don't want to see anyone get sick.
All right, so you want a second on that motion?
Just
Yes, sir.
to clarify one thing before it's seconded. So similar to when the state had come out with their requirements, you should accommodate for exemptions, so medical exemptions, and they had done children under 5. So I would suggest that you stick with the same exemptions as the state had put into their orders.
Okay, so we will put the exemption in for medical and for children under 5 that do not need to wear masks.
So moved, seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who actually?
Question?
Will there be any discussion on that, Chris?
Would you like to have one? I didn't think we needed one, but go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ross Perry. I'm the interim town administrator. I was going to suggest that policy, but anybody that's in an office by themselves, be required to wear a mask until there's a second person in there.
I would think that would be common sense, yes. That you should wear a mask when you're within 6 feet of someone else.
Or 2 or more people in a room.
2 or more people within 6 feet, yeah.
So yeah, I think what he wants to specify is he could have 10 people in a room, 6 feet apart. What he's saying is as soon as you have 2 people in a common room, that they should have their masks on. One person working in an office or a room wouldn't be required to have a mask on. So like Carla in her office, if she's alone, she could take her mask off until somebody came into her office.
Yes, that's a very good idea. Yes.
I have a question. This is for you, Rick, mostly. For this, the state said, okay, medical exemption. Did they in any way say how that is that self-identified?
No, so basically all along the way they said that if somebody said that they had a medical exemption, you have to take their word at it, that you couldn't ask for proof of the exemption or anything like that, that it was, you took it at face value.
Okay.
Now, is everybody here, I just have to ask because there are 2 members of the Board of Selectmen here, and it's not a joint meeting if one of you here is as a citizen and not a board member?
I think we're both here as citizens.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm actually here because I'm your liaison.
Yes,
so
no, I just want to make sure one was here as a citizen because it wasn't posted, so. Okay, thank you. So we have come up with 1 or more person in a room. Like to see you maintain 6 feet apart, but still wearing masks.
2 or more.
2 or more. Yes. What did I say?
That's what you said, 2 or more people.
Yes, in a room.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. That children under 5 don't need to wear masks, and people with medical reasons don't need to wear masks. Everyone else should. Vaccinated or unvaccinated.
I had Jim in a second with that. I didn't hear who made the motion.
Actually, I did.
Chris made a motion,
Yeah.
whether so moved and seconded. Is there something you want to add to that?
I just think that adding what I just said would,
Okay, that could be also so moved with the motion. The motion is still seconded. Any more discussion on the floor?
any more discussion? No? Okay, we're good.
Want to vote again?
Okay.
Do you want to vote?
Please.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Aye. So moved. Okay, now, we're going to 1.3. Okay, do we have discussion on this? Because,
Make a motion to open the hearing.
we'd like to make a motion to open the hearing at 6:07. Do you guys have anything you want to add? Because I think what we should do at this time, as a board, is to do our due diligence, thank you, I can almost say it, that we should approve the idea of them having the building in town, but not yet the location. I would rather see them get their state permits and come back to us if we need to make any other changes. I would like to see the state's ideas on what they need to do for this facility.
So that's your motion to open the hearing at
Yes.
6:07.
They did.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay. Go ahead, Andrew, you had your hand up.
I heard your acknowledgement about waiting to hear back from the state. My understanding from the state is that they need the town approval of the location prior to them approving anything.
Okay. I haven't heard that. I can check with council on that. Rick?
I can share. So yeah, just to add a couple of things. So there's two mass general laws that need to be considered by the Board of Health. So the one that was written by Shepherd to the Board of Selectmen originally, and that was passed along to the Board of Health, was through Chapter 111, Section 151. And that's what you can consider tonight. Town council had also brought to our attention that there's a second mass general law. It's Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 143, that has notification requirements. And it basically says that the hearing process must follow the provisions of Chapter 48 of the Mass General Law. So it's basically the zoning section of the Mass General Law, and that's for site assignment. So 151 talks more about, and I could read it if you want.
Please do.
So this is section 151. No person shall occupy or use a building for carrying on the business of slaughtering cattle, horses, mules, sheep, or other animals, or for a melting or rendering establishment, or for other noxious or offensive trade and occupation, or permit or allow said trade or occupation to be carried on upon premises owned or occupied by him, without first obtaining, after a public hearing has been held thereon, the written consent and permission of the mayor and city council or the selectmen, or in any town having a population of more than 5,000 of the Board of Health, if any, of the town where the building or premises are situated. This section shall not apply to any building or premises occupied or used for said trade or occupation on May 8, 1871, but no person who used or occupied any building or premises on said date for said trades or occupations shall enlarge or extend the same without first obtaining the written consent and permission of the mayor and city council or the selectmen, or in any town having a population of more than 5,000, the Board of Health, if any. So this is essentially a hearing to consider written consent and permission to have that type of trade or occupation in the town.
Okay. Discussion with the board?
I mean, it's pretty simple. We just need to say, yeah, we can have the discussion, and we can move to a hearing to see if they get the information that they need for the application process.
That's what I originally wanted to do. I'm sorry, everybody. I am just so wigged out about having this microphone in front of me. I can't even talk today. I apologize to everybody. That's what I wanted to do. Because I still think it's just what I want, is to have the board approve that we, geez, I'm sorry, this thing's killing me. That we approve to have the slaughterhouse, I know it's not that, but processing plant in town so that they can carry on. No. Jim?
This is a discussion, right?
Yes.
Okay. To whomever it may concern, is this something that is going to be utilized also for the benefit of other people in town for processing turkeys and poultry?
More than 6 feet away, so I can pull my mouse down there. Yes, so there's, it's a little unsettling. We've attempted through, for the past 8, 9, 10 months to hire the consultants, hire folks to guide us, work with Farm Bureau, work with the Department of Ag, work with the United States Department of Agriculture to get where we are. So, I've never been one to be filtered. I probably won't start now. So I got a comment that we needed to go for site plan review. I'm like, I'm not going to apply for a site plan review because under the right to farm, under the information that we had been getting, and I didn't want to bring in the folks from the USDA or the Mass Farm or the Farm Bureau and have anything contentious. So we're willing to do whatever we can, but clearly in August, was it, Andrew, we made our first application?
I believe so, end of August.
So regardless, somewhere in the August timeframe, we thought we had enough of a window.
To your question, Jim, yes, it will be for the benefit of anyone in town, anybody in the region, anyone in the state. Currently, there's only 3 locations in the state. We use 2 in the past to be able to process our turkeys, which has a state stamp up to 20,000 birds. They have closed down for lack of help, lack of whatever reason. They were both in good standings, but there's no resource right now there's limited resource right now in the state of Massachusetts to process your own birds to be able to sell them. So if you drive down Lunenburg Road, it's very clear what we're doing, where we're raising our turkeys, and we're trying to raise a natural product, and we need to be able to process it in the manner in which we can sell it. So it would be for us, and it would be for others that meet the criteria to be able to be in that building.
Is this something that you could expand to at a later time to go for a full-size harvest as far as beef?
So I don't like to do anything minimal standards, and I hope that become obvious over the past 25 years. The standard that we're aiming for is a USDA standard, which is the highest standard probably in the country, or maybe even in the world. That we want to be able to meet those sanitary conditions, the processing conditions, the humane conditions, all of that. So that's our goal. But right now, August was cutting it close, but October, November is going to put us out of the game. And to be quite fair, between myself and the guys that we're working with, we have 4,000 that need to be addressed. So if it's not going to be able to be addressed to be able to get to the state, and the state's been very accommodating to us, and they have not said to us once, you got to go before a site plan review, you have to do any of that. In contrary, we've been told, because under the right to farm and other bylaws in the state. So maybe Rick has that's great. I didn't call and say, tell me the ones that say we don't have to abide by that. It sounded pretty clear. And we do have consultants that we've worked with around the country, whether it be in Maryland or on the West Coast, that design and build these things. And I can imagine the apprehension of folks thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's going to be knives and crazy people running around, but that's not really the goal of where we're at. It's not the objective. So we've got something that has not been built in Massachusetts. We've had manufacturers, if you will, of these product lines that have come to us and said, if you're building that in Massachusetts, we want to be part of it, because our standard is not, you know, grab a log, grab an axe, and go to work. Standard is a stunning process, a humane processing of that, and then a very clean removal of all byproducts. So there'll be no byproducts there. Somebody called me and said, will it smell? Will it this? Will it that? I would be surprised if you'd hear anything. I'd be surprised if you'd smell anything. The only thing you're going to see is refrigerated trucks coming and going, and it's on a limited basis. Answer your question, Jim, yes, other people will be able to use it because there's no place for them to go.
Is there going to be a new septic system installed for that building? What's going to have to get squared away, its own water supply, the whole bit?
It is.
Okay.
All the byproducts will leave, except for the water that you use to wash the floor, but they go into tight tanks, and that's all state-approved stuff as well. So if Rick says to me, well, you can't do that, then we got to have that conversation as well.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know, but it would be an industrial waste holding tank, I'm assuming.
It doesn't qualify as industrial waste. It qualifies as a drain, but from my understanding, it does not qualify as an industrial waste.
So industrial waste holding tank falls under DEP, and what you might be talking about, I know there's a section within the plumbing code that talks about tight tanks, whatever they might call it in their code. But really, our code only addresses addressable waste, which is waste that can be discharged to a Title V system. So we don't specifically address within our code how to dispose of that type of waste, just that you can't discharge it to the septic system.
Okay.
So you'll have to figure out what the terminology they're using is, but I know industrial waste holding tanks we deal with, and they go through the state. And then I know Richie Capinas has done some other ones through the plumbing code, which is what you might be more talking about.
If that's part of the conversation, we could dive into that, but I think that's outside of what we're trying to get into today. I mean, you've got to have a plan for everything from the time that the turkey or the chicken arrives at the building or drives on the property until it's leaving in a bag. And we've got those plans.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I think, it might be more of a discussion once we get to the 111, section 143 part of it. But for the purposes of this hearing, it's really just to entertain the idea. So the word that's used is written consent and permission from the Board of Health to have a slaughtering facility.
I think, to be fair to everyone, I've learned a long time ago that when you don't know something, you get the people that do. And we can go down that, and the town can take their position. I'm not trying to be adversarial, but I'm going to make sure that we're well represented with the information that we've been told up to this point of what we're allowed to do, versus being at the end of the game and say, okay, you got to regroup, and you've got to apply, and you've got to go for site plan review, and you've got to go and have all these things done. I get it that you're reading that, but we've been hearing something else. So whether it be town council that decided today that we couldn't go in the route that we were attempting to go, and we have to now post it differently, I wouldn't say that it's unfair, but it's unfortunate that we're at that place today.
Okay, Jim, please.
To carry on with the discussion, this is public discussion. I'm going to partake in that as a member of the board and also as a taxpayer of the town. Having been involved in farming all my life, also having known the other farmers in the town, and knowing what happened when Bloodsburg and everything got shut down, or what happened when Adams got shut down and they burned. I'm in favor of another facility, such as what there is after to be here in town, because I feel that the public needs it for those who are doing backyard farming. I used to slaughter my own birds and my own confines. I did all my own stuff. But when you get into the large volume, that slaughterhouse is determined that it's something we do need in the area. So it's my point as a member of the Board of Health that this is something we should go forward with, cross our T's, dot our I's, just to make this happen.
If I may, I'd like to share one other piece with you all.
Go ahead.
When the fellow that we use that couldn't find the labor to do it decided to shut down and sell out, we bought it. And we thought, well, we could leave it where it's at and keep going, or we can move it right here. It's under our nose, we get to see it. So the vantage point that we've had by entertaining an already existing operation is that the information that we've got has led us to where we're at today. And we didn't expect that we'd be here. If we would have been here in June. But I appreciate your sentiments, Jim, and certainly we want to do it for the benefit of not just ourselves, but the community. But at the end of the day, we got to figure out if this is something happening or not, because that building is up. The product lines have been bought, coolers have been bought, coolers are in the building, and the state has told us, yeah, you're good to go. We just need a letter from the town of Townsend, and then we can begin the inspection process.
Yeah, you have it?
My only thing is I'm all for moving forward with it as far as my seat goes. It's a big aspiration to sit here in October and think feel like it's going to happen. It makes me nervous for you, for sure. Even if this was August, I would feel nervous knowing how long it just takes things to happen. So from my seat, we definitely need to move forward and talk about it. That's my point of view.
So I appreciate that, and as I apologize for my lack of diplomacy, I think for whatever reason that we've ended up here at the end of the game, I'll accept my responsibility, but to fall back and say bureaucracy moves slowly and we're not going to take a position is unacceptable. If you're going to take a position, you're not going to allow us. You ought to tell me. If you're you ought to say, look, we're not going to for whatever reason. If the community has a concern, would like to know what it is, sure, and we will address it. But the process that's brought us to this point in time has been, you're moving along, you're doing fine, just get a letter from the town that acknowledges it. Now all of a sudden, we got to go for a site plan review on a building that we've got a permit that's up, that's this and that. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but let's put the cards on the table. And we're either going to address it or we're not. If not, I've got to move things in another direction.
Fortunately, that is not our board.
Doesn't matter if you're board or not.
Yeah.
You got the decision making now, Chris,
Yeah.
to say, we're either going to do it or we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm asking respectfully that if you're going to stick a fork in us, I want to know now.
Yeah,
because
I know.
we've got to make a plan.
If you listen to the board, I don't think you'll have a problem. I see hands. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Joan Savoy, Adams Road. I think this is for Rick. Rick, the wastewater treatment piece, that's the state? The state handles that?
We would handle the Title V flow, but if you're talking about waste as far as byproduct from the processing, the state handles that.
Okay, so that's covered?
The state would be.
Okay, okay.
Veronica?
I guess my question is this vote today to allow the processing facility anywhere in town, or is it specific to this location?
Right now, it's just saying that it can be in town, and they will take the letter to the state, and they will get all the permits.
So it doesn't say at that location. It just says
It's one from
anywhere in
us,
town.
right now.
That's the portion that this Mass General Law 111, Section 143 comes into play. And it's really, as far as what I've been told, if the board granted consent and permission tonight under Mass General Law 151 or 111, 151, you would still need site assignment under that Mass General Law 111, Section 143. And so as far as site plan review, I haven't really done enough research to figure out whether that's something that's required, but 143 says no trade or employment which may result in a nuisance or be harmful to the inhabitants injurious to their estates, dangerous to the public health, or may be attended by noisome and injurious odors shall be established in a city or town, except in a location as may be assigned by the Board of Health thereof after a public hearing has been held thereon, subject to the provisions of Chapter 40A, and such Board of Health may prohibit the exercise thereof within the limits of the city or town or in places not so assigned in any event. Such assignment shall be entered in the records of the city or town and may be revoked when the board shall think proper. And so the 40A has a lot of notification requirements that go along with it. They're all 14-day notification requirements.
And that's fine, but I believe, and I didn't bring any of this with me, and I didn't bring a lawyer with me, I didn't do any of that, but I would deflect this comment to Eric. I don't know if he wants to venture into this muddy water or not, but I believe under the right to farm, the agricultural provisions, it excludes the ability of the Board of Health to have, at the risk of sounding too contrite, any ability to control any of the activities with the right to farm in that agricultural area. It goes to the state. And maybe Eric can touch upon that better than I. But if anyone is concerned that the standard that which we're required to perform is going to be negated because the Townsend Board of Health has done one thing or another, rest assured that the Department of Agriculture, United States Department of Agriculture, and the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture have such stringent controls that there is no way that there's a lot of wiggle room in there.
Yeah, so I can touch on the right to farm. So right to farm pertains to commercial farms. Does not pertain to backyard farms. Right to farm is, and once it's adopted by a town, it basically is a notification to residents that farming occurs in this town and that nuisances may be generated from that, or perceived nuisances, put it that way. Right to farm says that you're going to be subjected to maybe noise, maybe odors that you find offensive, maybe fumes that you find offensive, et cetera, because this is a farming town. So any complaints about farming, you really can't complain about it at all here. It's a right to farm community, so you can't even raise these issues. According to town council, you can raise them, but the courts have been tough to act on them. So yeah, you can go through the motions, but this is a right to farm community, and when you move into Townsend, you're acknowledging that I might start my tractor at 5 in the morning. I might hear chickens crowing. I might have cows, making noise. I might have, manure giving off scent. You can't complain about any of it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Veronica.
So I'd like to share this with the board. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
1 second. Go ahead, Veronica.
I guess my question is, I understand that we're a right to farm community, and what Eric says is absolutely the case. Is this facility considered to be an industrial facility as opposed to a regular everyday farming use?
That would have to be Eric.
Yeah, so to me, no. The town council has expressed that. Earlier today, I reviewed the definition of farming. The definition of farming by Mass General Law includes the harvesting, but it does not define harvest. If you look up the definition of harvest, it includes killing, period. That Merriam-Webster definition, harvesting fish, harvesting anything like that. It goes on to further describe processing. I think both of those activities fall under that provision of farming. Adam has said that processing chickens is an industrial process. I don't know if I agree with that based on the definition Massachusetts has put forward. Based on that information, it appears to be farming to me. That's what I thought from the get-go. He's saying no, but under that definition, I don't know how it can't be. But that's his interpretation of it. I've interpreted it, and I don't agree that it may be an industrial process even still, but it would still be accessory to the farming activities that are permitted at that site for over 70 years. So in that respect, it's a permitted use. Speaking, Gary mentioned site plan review. I haven't made a formal determination on that at this point, but just so everyone understands, even if we were to complete a site plan review, we wouldn't be able to deny the use. is by right farming. You can only regulate. So it would only be regulation. How much you can regulate a farm is not much with a right to farm community. You can't tell a farmer he can't conduct his business at 5 in the morning. Can't do it.
Understood.
So you're only regulating traffic, if you even go to site plan review, lighting. I mean, there's not a heck of a lot there. It can be done, but it's not going to result in any kind of ruling that would say you can't do this here.
Thank you, Eric. Gary, you had something else?
No, I'm not sure where the big concern is. Is it following the letter of the law? But I've learned after 40 years in Townsend and 30-odd years of playing in the political game in this building that what is said versus what is meant can be two different things. So if there's a real concern, let's address it and figure it out. Let's not hide behind, well, you can't do this because. I don't know what the reason is. So we have, to this point in time, gone down this road with the state, with the federal government, and with other communities that have had it, and nothing has said to us, you've got to start this process back in April or May to have a site plan review, even under the right to farm law, even under this, even under that. So had that been the case, we'd have been here. So if somebody can point that out, now, I guess I would counter or challenge Rick that the information that we've gotten is that we're precluded from some of that by the process. Now, I don't avoid any ruling, any law. I want to abide by the same standard as anyone else, but I also don't want to do any more than the next guy. So that said, I would say to the community as a whole, if there's anyone that's got concerns, tell me what the concerns are, we'll tell you how they can be addressed. I think it's, Andrew could tell me what the acronym is, HEPA, not HEPA, it's HAFID. HACID. It's a ruling or a law that you have to abide by with the state and federal government. You can get into it in more detail that addresses every piece of information from a sick turkey that jumps out of the truck and hits his head to bad diseases. How do you address it? In smells, in the processing. How do you make sure there's no rodents? How do you make sure that the guts, if you want to call it that, or offal, is addressed properly? And in the event that we do something wrong, we're out of business. And that's the reality of it, folks. So if there's a bigger problem that nobody wants to say, well, I'll close my eyes, I don't know who says it, just tell us what the issue is. But if the community wants to come up and see what we're doing, I'd be more than proud to show them what we're doing, because we've been told that we are probably the only one in the state. Now, you can go to turkey farms, and I won't say their names, and you can buy a turkey that they process at their farm throughout the state. It's easy. You don't have to go very far to find them. And they can do it. We're trying to do that plus at a higher level.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Bill Cadigan from Adams Road. The only thing I haven't heard, Gary, is do you expect any retail traffic, or is this all wholesale with big refrigerated trucks?
So for 10 years, we've been selling out of our ice cream stand.
Okay.
And we're not preparing for retail. Brookside Farm, which I'm under agreement to purchase, also my cousins, full disclosure, have had retail for selling eggs up there since my grandfather, almost 100 years ago. But it's not the plan to be retailing in West Townsend. 3,000 turkeys of this fall will go to Rutland and Whistler. 1,000 of them, which we've been selling more than, I don't know that very many people have either known that or been concerned, have been right up there on Lunenburg Road. And we've been doing it for, my father's been gone 8 years, and been doing it before he left. So it's not the goal, and quite frankly, I don't do well with people, so I'd rather not retail. My daughter does a lot of the retailing, my son and his girlfriend, but it's been happening on Main Street. We got more population, we got more traffic, we got a better parking lot down there, we have a better facility down there. So that's where they go. And as of right now, that's the plan.
Thanks.
Okay. So, I would like to make a motion that the board approve the facility in Townsend, that we send a letter to the state with the approval so that they can continue with their process of getting their facility going. Can I get a second?
I don't want to leave a stone unturned here.
Yes.
My mind is going.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
You mentioned earlier in the meeting, in the public meeting, hey, Gary, that there's a possibility of doing cattle and stuff down
No,
the line.
no cattle.
Nothing at all. This is going to stay strictly for turkeys and poultry.
Just turkeys and chickens, yeah, no cows, no
Is it
sheep, no
going to
pigs.
be maintained seasonal, or are you going to start going full-time with it?
The intention would be, we'd do chickens a few times during the course of the late spring, summer to fall, but then it would, after Thanksgiving, Christmas at the latest, it'd be quiet. So, once again, more than 20,000 birds, it's a different story. We don't expect to go to that level.
Okay.
One more thing I want to interject that Gary hasn't brought up is that this machine doesn't even have to be, it's a machine. It doesn't even have to be in a building. It can be housed outside.
Right.
If Gary wants to house it inside, it's obviously a very expensive piece of equipment. This machine can be loaded onto a flatbed and brought onto sites.
There are people that put them, there is one in Massachusetts, will be three, will be the third. There's one in Massachusetts that they put it in the back of a trailer body, and they put it inside of a building, and that's how they operate.
Yeah, they have mobile facilities, so I mean, they're very much self-contained, as you mentioned, as far as the offal, which is the parts that you don't use. They go to Western Mass, be processed or something else, according to Gary.
Andrew can tell you what agreements we have for that. I guess I would ask the board and the community and whoever all else that wants to interject, but if we can demonstrate or prove what we've been told from the state, that what Rick's position is may not completely apply, and you make a rendering tonight that contingent upon us delivering that information that satisfies the Board of Health, do we have to go through the rest of the process? I understand folks want to voice their opinion, and we're willing to listen, and we're willing to address it, but I don't want to add months.
So, my only concern is that the board's following proper process, because I don't want them to be in a position where they haven't. So, it was based on conversation with town council that we go through the process of approval through Mass General Law 111, Section 143. It's also in the Mass Association of Health Boards handbook, and it specifically listed slaughterhouses requiring site assignment. And so between town council and it showing up here, I'm not opposed to the board approving the idea of it tonight, but I would strongly urge them to make sure that either they do or they do not have to follow the site assignment process. And if they don't, then you're all set. If you do, then we gotta get started quick so that we can go through that process.
So I wouldn't say that all lawyers are all-knowing, but I would challenge that position based on where we've come from. And if it was contingent upon that, I don't want to see you get in trouble either, but I don't want to be hung out either. So if in fact it can be a contingent approval, approved first and approved the second, contingent upon us challenging and being successful in prevailing what I've been telling you, then the process moves forward.
Okay. Okay, good. There's a motion on the board. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? We will have the letter sent to the state for you, approving your facility.
But not at that location.
No, until you, we have to have council in another meeting in order to do that, because it also has to be posted for 2 weeks. And it hasn't been, so.
Well, I hope you're right, Chris.
Well, that's what I'm told, so that's what I have to
Do you
do.
believe everything you're told by one?
Well, by council, I had to have to rely on them. Don't you rely on yours?
I do rely on my counsel.
I have to rely
So
on
my account, apparently, the information we're receiving is different than the information that your lawyer is receiving, the town council is receiving, and I'm not convinced that Townsend's town council is an agricultural attorney for the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah. I can only do what, I'm elected, I gotta follow the rules of what we have. You know that, Gary.
You know, I'm suggesting that if you want to go in believing that you can only do what people tell you, then you're really not performing to your elected ability.
Okay, but we're gonna stick with what we have right now. So,
Disappointing.
I'm sorry.
I'm not, are you really?
I am. I'm very sorry you feel that.
Is there anybody in the community that would like to tell us what their concerns are, and maybe we can bring those in and make sure that we address them the next time?
that anybody have a concern? Doesn't
Well,
seem-
as a community person, my big concerns are wastewater, discharge, what happens to the offal? Do you keep it on site? Do you cart it away? Do
Going to New
you?
York someplace to a rendering plant.
Go ahead.
Chris, if I can just add that
Yes.
I got involved in this morning because there was a question about proper posting process.
Right.
And I've now learned more about the slaughtering process than I planned to, so that's something I can add to my resume.
Okay.
So Rick is right that under Chapter 111, Section 151, first of all, your meeting was appropriately posted for that hearing.
Okay.
And that's what you voted on, is to support them having a processing facility in Townsend,
That's correct.
period. I suggest that the Shepherds take that letter of support to the state and say, we've gotten support from the Board of Health to have a processing facility in Townsend, and see what the state says. They could say, no, you have to come back and get approval under Section 111, 143. If they say that, then you post it. You could, if you think that that's going to happen, you could ask the board tonight or tomorrow to post for that meeting. But right now, you have the support from the board under Section 153. And that's as much as you can do tonight, the way the meeting was posted.
Okay.
So if that was the case, then why don't we plan another meeting? And if you don't have to have it, great. But if you have to have it, it doesn't add a month.
Do you want to set that up for 2 weeks?
So I
Well, we need 2 weeks of notification, right?
So 2 weeks for notification, but I would give yourself at least a day or two to talk to town council and Gary an opportunity to talk to his council
Yep.
to see if it's necessary or not, be sure.
So, Rick, I guess where I was going, and you said it differently, in the event that our council talks to your council and everybody meets in the middle and they say, well, you don't really need that, and we don't need the meeting, but maybe we should set the meeting up. And in the event that we don't need it, then what do we do in 2 weeks? Have the same Board of Health meeting reconvene?
We have a meeting scheduled for the 29th.
Let me finish if I may. And then do they have to approve under the 111, 143?
If they find out that they don't need to, then there wouldn't be any reason to hold a hearing.
But they'd have to make sure the letter states it, because someone came up with, it has to be the location. So the location is 3 Wheeler Road.
Yep. Yep.
So you wouldn't need a meeting, we could just come to Carla and say, it was approved, can you issue me the letter that says it's approved for 3 Wheeler Road?
I don't believe you can get the approval tonight for 3 Wheeler Road. You've got the approval to have the facility in Townsend.
Okay.
And you can take that to the state, see if they tell you need more, or you could, as you're discussing, ask the board to schedule a meeting 14-plus days from now in case that is required.
Gary, would you like to be on the agenda for the 29th? We
That's
have
a
a
Friday.
meeting on the 29th.
Friday. And
That'll give you
we got to
2
do what,
weeks and,
500 feet?
300 feet.
300 or 500? I thought Andrew told me 300.
300.
So we need to get a certified list of anybody within 300 feet, right? Yes, I would like to be on that.
Yes, okay. Tally, make sure.
And so,
Make sure they put on that meeting.
the section's very specific about what has to be included in the notice. So I would suggest that you read it over and you are clear what the notices have to provide as far as information on the hearing.
What is, do you have it right there? Can you hand it to Andrew beside you?
Yeah.
Chris, is that an evening meeting?
Oh, it's actually at 9:30.
That's at 9:30 in the morning.
Does that meet the standards of a public access for a public hearing at 9:30 in the morning on a weekday?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
It may not be convenient for you, but it is.
Got it.
Needs to stand.
Yep, thank you.
Go ahead, Veronica.
I think I would request that there be a Zoom link for that so that people can attend who are not physically able to be here, especially given the mask order?
I've never been a big fan of that, you know that, but if Ross thinks it's appropriate, we'll do that.
Yes, it is appropriate.
Okay, then we will do a Zoom meeting too.
But I-
Who sets that up, Ross? I don't, listen, I'm not a
We will
computer guy.
take
Yeah,
care
don't worry
of
about that.
Yeah,
setting
okay.
that up for you. How's that?
That sounds great.
Chris, if anybody's got concerns.
Is the major issue, do you need FDA approval that says an address? Is that the problem? Is that the hang-up?
Andrew?
What's the main crux here?
The original letter was law cited by the state in our application for them to begin approval for our facility references the exact location, I believe. I'm not sure the exact one, but it was, I felt like it was pretty clear, like the location, so the address. I don't know.
And in order for us, and I'm just trying to get some mental bearings on what's going on. And in 111, 143, that includes the site plan. And that's the crux.
I didn't see anything about a site plan.
So what?
Site assignment.
So site assignment?
Yeah.
Site assignment, okay. So that's the crux of the issue here is you're looking for a site assignment and the town's not saying we approve the site assignment.
The town's saying you can have it, but we're not telling you where you can have it. So if the state wanted to pretend that it didn't matter, that's fine, but if I was to look for the letter of law, if I was on the other side of the table, I would want to know the location.
100. And for me, being a person who had legal issues with a former employer over location, and they were doing things at one location, yet the address and the paperwork said something else, that's a problem.
I get it.
And I understand that fully.
So from the beginning, we feel that we haven't hid anything. We've done what we've been directed to do. And I would take it a step further. Anybody in the community or the area has a concern that's germane to what we're attempting to do, feel free to either reach out to us, give the questions to you, forward them to us, we'll address them.
Sure. I think some general education would really go a long way in at the minimal easing the tensions of what's going on. I don't know anything about farming other than I had 5 chickens and it was the biggest pain in the butt I've ever known in my life. So that's my education of it. It sounds like it's a big thing, but I can tell if it's done in a trailer in some facilities, it can't be that big of a thing. So it sounds like maybe we just need some education.
Well, we're not in a trailer.
I understand that fully. I mean, the stuff on Lunenburg Road looks great, so I mean,
Go ahead.
Chris, I don't understand why why tonight you just can't say, okay, 3-wheeler road. Like, what? I don't understand why that's a thing.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Through you. The only issue at play here is the fact of the notice to the public hearing. That's the only issue that we have here. There are 2 votes that need to happen. The first vote happened. The second vote needs a 14-day notice, and it also needs to be published, and abutters need to be notified as well. That is the only issue that's here. It has nothing to do with what Mr. Shepherd wants to do. And it's completely in the purview of the Board of Health, so it's really kind of a legal issue.
Thank you.
So Chaz, that's why I asked if there was, and I've heard everyone say it, and I guess I'm just pushing along a little bit. If in fact we could prove it, is there anything that we could do with a contingency to say, provided we could prove it? But if everyone is convinced that we have to have the hearing, we got to do the notification and let all the neighbors know, then that's fine, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm. I'm not an attorney.
I get that. Nor am I.
I believe the taking the letter that the Board of Health is willing to write to the state and ask the state, I think is a very, is probably a way in which if the state approves it for that, and then you can still keep the date, and we can still, you can even say in your filing that it's contingent upon, the notice going through for a formal public hearing. That's all that needs to happen.
One other point on that is that it would be essentially defective notice. So it's actually in your own interest to get the hearing properly posted, because if somebody appealed and it was defective notice, you'd lose, in milliseconds. So it's safer for you to do it that way.
Thank you, Bill. So I believe everybody's got to get certified mail within 300 feet. And then we've got to post it, whether it be in the Groton Herald or the Neshoba Voice, right?
Two newspapers.
Yeah. 2 newspapers.
Two consecutive weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks in one newspaper.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, can I get a motion to close this meeting at 6:53?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting at 6:53.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I don't believe in
Thanks, Gary.
Motion to adjourn.
You got one right here, COVID. You did it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it.
It was a discussion.
We actually did that. Yeah, we did it at the beginning, actually.
Should I put on the red banner?
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.